Hey, what's up, guys? This is Sam. Today I wanted to go over how to curate great stock photos for your website or for your brand. I know there's a ton of great resources out there for finding high quality photos, Unsplash, Pexels, to just name a couple. What I would like to do in this video is show you how you can use those resources to create photos that are going to be coherent and help make your brand look a little bit more professional by putting ones together that are going to match both your brand colors, your brand personality, and ultimately look more cohesive together. So let's jump right in. Okay, so like I mentioned, Unsplash is a great resource for finding a lot of stock photos, as well as we've got Pexels over here, which if I switch my screen, you can see that there. Another one that I really like to use is Envato Elements. It's a paid resource, but there's a lot of photos as well as other resources that you get value on there. Death to Stock, Adobe Stock are some other ones out there also that are paid. So if you do have the ability to pay a little bit more for stock photos, definitely recommend that, because you're going to be able to find ones that are a little bit more unique and that you're not going to see being used on other people's brands or websites. Okay, so what's nice about a lot of these websites is they all have easy ways to create collections and group photos together. So this is kind of where I like to start, is putting photos together and just kind of getting a bunch of them in one place where I can eventually go through and filter down. So for the project that I've decided to work on, I'm going to be creating a collection of photos for a travel agency based in Peru. Now, nice thing about this is because it's travel related, you're going to find a ton of photos out there. They don't need to be super specific. One thing about a lot of these free resources is there's a ton of just landscape photography, and I found that in most cases you can type in certain destinations directly and it'll pull that up. So this one's going to be easy. Depending on what you're doing, you might need to get a little bit more creative with how you're searching for these photos, but this will be a good place to start. A couple things to keep in mind. If you do have some brand traits, those would probably be ideal to keep in mind. So, is your brand funny? Is it serious? Is it exciting? Is it, a little bit more dramatic? Things like that, just kind of to keep in the back of your mind when you're selecting these photos. The other thing is brand colors. A lot of times you're going to want to choose specific colors that, or choose photos that complement the colors in your brand. So I would make sure that you're definitely keeping those in mind as well. And then the next thing is just kind of be thinking about keywords you can use. So for example, Peru travel agency, we're going to want to look up, obviously, Peru, or different locations, Machu Picchu. There's going to be a ton of photos for that, obviously. Really anything else, big cities, Lima, or other cities you might travel to, like Cusco. So kind of just be thinking through how you can find those keywords to use ultimately when you're searching and kind of creating this. So let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and search, like I said, Peru on Unsplash. And like I said, we can see there it is, that iconic photo of Machu Picchu. But there's some other stuff here too. So I actually really like this photo and this style here. So I'm just going to click this plus button. And I've actually already created a collection here where I've started this. But if you need to create a new one, super easy. If you're logged in, obviously just go in here and create a new collection. That'll populate over in your profile. If you're using Pexels, same thing, pretty much same process, or really any other stock resource. Cool, so I'm going to add that there. Now, as I'm going through here, here's one thing that you can do to try and find photos that are consistent, and that is, if you see a photo you like, go ahead and click on whoever created that photo and see if they have other ones that are going to be similar. So for this, it looks like these are a lot of, I'm not seeing anything else with Peru quite yet. This one looks like that might be, we'll just go ahead and add that. But when you're using the same photographer for some of these, what that'll help you do is get a consistent look and feel for the photos you're using. A lot of times they use the same camera or same camera settings to get that specific style. All right, so I'm just going to continue to scroll through here. Like I said, if you can pay for Unsplash Plus, there are a lot of great photos on here too. And I think it's only like $8 a month. So I'm just going to go through. It looks like I already added that one and just kind of find a couple. We'll do one other, I won't go through a ton of this, but we'll do one other location. Let's go with Cusco, Peru, popular spot. Here's kind of a similar, I think that kind of matches it. Now this might not be great for travel, and it might be a slightly different color, but I'm gonna add it. At this point, really the main thing you want to do is just start getting a good bank of a bunch of photos that you can eventually whittle down. Okay, so I've gone through and I've got a good list of photos that I've collected from both Unsplash as well as from Pexels. You can almost see kind of how I've gone from beginning when I was picking photos out to slowly kind of honing in and identifying the types and styles of photos that I wanted to use. If I go over to Pexels, you can probably see a very similar style in a lot of these as well. So what I want to do from here is, now that I've kind of identified that, you know, a lot of these photos have kind of that rusty red and then that deep vibrant green color, and they all kind of have like a slight overlay on them. So I really like that style, and that's kind of what the direction I want to go with this one. So now that I've got that identified, I'm going to go through and download all these photos, filter out the ones that I'm not going to use or that I've kind of realized aren't going to work for my purposes. And I'm going to put those into Figma, where I'm going to filter them down even a little bit more. Okay, I've got all my photos put into Figma, as you can see here. What this is going to do is it's going to give me a nice kind of bird's eye view of all the photos, and I kind of pick and choose maybe the ones that don't align with the rest of them, and really filter down this list a little bit more. Again, you don't have to use Figma. I like it because it's a tool I'm comfortable with. You could do the same thing in Photoshop or Illustrator, or I'm sure there's other tools out there too. When I imported these, one thing I did is I made sure that they were all the same height. That's going to just give it a little bit more consistency, so the eye is not fighting for, you know, a larger photo is going to stand out a little bit more than a smaller one, so they all kind of have that same weight for the most part. So yeah, so now I'm just going to go through and start pulling out the ones that maybe don't quite match or aren't what I'm going for. So immediately, you know, I see this one here kind of stands out. While I like that green, I'm not sure it's going to match the rest of the photos here. From there, you know, this one might not quite match. Some of this is going to be preference, so, you know, just kind of go with your gut, especially if it's your brand that you're working on. Feel free to do kind of what feels right in some of this. So I'm kind of narrowing this down. I'm getting more of a, again, kind of going for some of these rusty red colors, as well as these kind of vibrant green colors are really what I'm going for, as well as that kind of overlaid aspect of some of this photography. This one might be a little bit darker than I want to go, and this one might be just a tiny bit brighter. So, yeah, you can play around with this for quite a while. Kind of depends what you're going for. If you feel like you need to go back in and find some more photos, you can definitely do that as well. So it's definitely a fluid process once you get to this point. So yeah, I feel pretty good about what I've got here. One last thing I do want to mention, and one reason I like Figma, but you can do this in Photoshop too, is you can make adjustments to photos. So if you find, let's say this one, maybe this one has a little bit, maybe I want it to be a little bit darker, so I can pull down some of the highlights or, you know, the exposure just a tiny bit to match some of these other photos. I could even put just an overlay on it, and that kind of, like I said, pulls in that effect a little bit more. You can go with that. So it's nice because you can do all this pretty easily in Figma from a bird's eye view. This one here, this was the original photo on the left, and I actually pulled this one into Photoshop to get that to match a little bit more. So if you have the skills to do that in Photoshop, that's another option to kind of get the look and feel you're going for. And that was the eventual photo, and I feel like that one matches a little bit better on some of these. From here, what you can do is basically you can export these out of Figma, save them in a file so you can use them on other places. I like to keep them in Figma because what I'm going to do eventually is build out a full site for this, and I can just go in and copy and paste those into my working file for the site layout. All right, so ultimately that is how I approach curating great stock photos for my website projects or for a brand, depending on what you're working on. Like I said, my next step is I'm going to go in and actually use these to create a full website. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, definitely feel free to follow along. And thank you for watching.